welcome to our lesson for today. So remember, in the last lesson, we met a man called Jonah, and we learned that Jonah is a prophet of God. A prophet receives messages from God and goes and delivers these messages to the rest of the people. God sent Jonah to speak to the people of Nineveh, who are wicked and cruel, and told Jonah to tell them to change their ways or God would have to punish them. But Jonah did not want to go to Nineveh, so instead he decided to run away from God. He decided he was going to go to Tarshish instead of going to Nineveh. So Jonah got on a boat that was going to Tarshish and he fell asleep.
So Jonah fell asleep very quickly, and he was deep in his sleep that the outside noise and people talking and the activities going on outside, they did not wake him up. He was sleeping and he was fast asleep.
And everything was soothing to Jonah as he slept. The waves were calm, the sea was moving nice and softly, and Jonah slept and slept and slept and slept.
Jonah was still sleeping, and even the rising and the falling of the water, they just soothed him and his mind and his body, but they did not go far. The wind, there was strong wind, and there was a storm that beat the waters, and the waves, they began to rise higher and higher and higher and higher, and they were now hitting the boats from side to side.
So there's a big storm happening. The waves are going higher and higher and higher, and they're hitting the ship on one side and on one side and on one side. So the sailors in the ship, they're trying to save the ship. They're trying to make the ship easy to control. So they threw out everything that was in the ship. All the luggage, all the cargo, all the heavy things were thrown out so they can try and save the ship. But no matter what the sailors did, they could not save the ship. And they soon realized that the water and the storm was going to destroy the ship, and they were all going to drown.
So the people, they were crying out and they were praying to their different gods, because in the ship there were many people of different places, and they were praying to their different gods. And now the captain, the person who drives the ship, he woke up and he looked and he saw Jonah was still sleeping, and he went to Jonah and he touched him on his shoulder, and he was shaking him, telling him, wake up and pray to your God. If this storm does not end, we will all die.
So while Jonah was waking up, the other sailors were talking and trying to figure out what is wrong. So one sailor said, one of us has to have done something wrong. That is why the gods are angry with this person, and they sent this storm to punish him. Let us draw lots to find out who this person is. Now, drawing lots was they were going to write all of the names down of all of the people in the ship. Then they were going to mix them together, and they were going to pick only one name. And the name that they picked is going to be the name of the person who's done something wrong. So that's what they did. They wrote down all of the names of all of the people on different papers, then mixed them all together. And then one person picked up the paper, and the name of the paper on the paper was Jonah. So everyone turned to Jonah, because they knew now Jonah is the one who has done something wrong.
And now everyone was looking at Jonah, telling him, confess, Jonah, confess. Tell us what you have done. Tell us who you are, and tell us why we are going through all this trouble because of you. So Jonah answered them and told them, I am a Jew. I worship the true God who made the heavens and the earth. And yes, you are right. I have done something wrong. I have disobeyed God. I am a prophet. And so you guys, just throw me overboard, and the water will stop and the storm will stop.
But the people on the ship, they were kind people. They didn't want to hurt Jonah. So they tried again, one more time, to save the ship. But it didn't work. No matter what they tried, they could not save the ship. So they prayed to Jonah's God, and they said, please, Jonah's God, do not blame us for throwing Jonah into the sea. We don't want to hurt him, but it is our only hope. It is the only hope we have to save ourselves. And you are the one who sent the storm. So after they prayed, they picked up Jonah and they threw him into the water. They threw him overboard. And immediately they threw Jonah overboard, the storm stopped. The wind stopped being so strong and hitting everywhere, and it calmed down. And the water that was rising higher and higher, and the waves that were hitting the ship on every side, they calmed down. Now the sea was calm again, and the storm was gone.
And when the people saw this, they all knelt down and they bowed and they prayed to Jonah's God. And they told him, "We know that you are the true God, and we will all worship you and serve you only."
So children, next time we'll see what happens to Jonah after he's been thrown into the sea. But from this story, we learn that you can't run away from God. God is everywhere. He sees everything and He knows everything. So it is impossible to run away from God. Now it's time for us to sing our song. So everyone stand up and help us sing this song. Okay kids, it's time for us to sing our song. Now we've just learned about Jonah and how a great big storm was sent crashing and hitting the ship that he was on because he was trying to run away from God. And we learned that we cannot run away from God because God is everywhere, He sees everything and He knows everything. So, to remember this lesson, we are going to sing a song that says God speaks and we listen, because that is what Jonah should have done. God should have spoken to him and Jonah should have listened. So stand up and help us sing this song. God speaks, we listen. Okay kids, so we've just learned about Jonah and how he tried to run away from God. And we learned that you can't run away from God because He is everywhere, He sees everything and He knows everything. So Jonah was caught in a storm. So to remember the story, we are going to create our own picture of a storm.
So here we have different pieces of manila paper cut out. We have this first piece which is cut as waves. We have this other rectangular piece. We have these two pieces that look like thunder, and we also have cotton wool. So we will start by gluing this piece down on the manila paper. Just apply glue at the back to help it stick. Applying glue, just stick it at the bottom. And Then we will glue our cotton wool at the very top so that they will represent the clouds. So just apply glue at the top of your manila paper so that you can stick your cotton wool. So now that we have our clouds, we use the rest of the pieces and glue them down just below the clouds to represent the color lightning. So after applying glue, just stick them right below the clouds. Make sure you press down so that they stick. Do the same for the other piece and stick it right below the clouds.
Okay, so once we have our picture of our storm created, next thing we need to do is we need to write down where we find our story. So we find the story of Jonah in the storm. We find it in Jonah chapter 1 to chapter 3. That is where we find the story of Jonah. So on your waves, write Jonah chapter 1 to chapter 3, which is where we find this story. And then what we learned from this story is you can't run away from God. So right there next to the waves, write, you can't run away from God. You can't run away from God. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to write down our memory verse. Now our memory verse comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 7. 139 verse 7, and it says, where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? So now we have our story, our memory verse, and our picture. So whenever you see the lightning, you remember that we learned today that you can never run away from God. So that has been our craft for today, and this has been our lesson for today. We'll see you next time to see what happens to Jonah. Bye!